Aftermath. Grass country, river, aftermath of battle. As Sasuke began to slip into the water, a trio of figures came out of the trees and jumped down. The apparent leader walked up to the ailing Uchiha and roughly pulled him up by the arm, eliciting a groan from the boy. Placing a glowing hand over his head, the man nodded to his two subordinates, to which one of them moved a hand over their ear. "Sir, the package has been taken. I repeat, the bargaining chip is ours." "Orders." The crackle of the radio quieted as the three waited for their superior to come back. "Return to base immediately, Leader Sama is pleased." The one carrying Sasuke slung the teen over his shoulder and started off in a run towards their destination. "Why does leader want this Uchiha? What is so special about the traitor?" one of the men asked, to which he was replied with a grunt. "HMPH. The leader is an expert at diplomacy and is very clever. He obviously has a plan for this one and that strange masked man. Kirigakure, Uzumaki Darumi Estate. Pregnant," Naruto exclaimed, not believing what he was hearing. Mei giggled a bit and nodded, pointing at her stomach where his hand still laid. "Our baby is growing right inside of me, isn't it wonderful?" Naruto just went from looking at her to her stomach before putting his hand onto his forehead. "Oh boy." And with that, our brave hero fainted, something which many young dads can attest to. Mei just watched as her fiancé slumped into the couch and wanted to break out laughing, not at all feeling worried. She knew that Naruto was happy, overjoyed even that they were having a baby. It was just a very big shock. Settling for laying the big blonde down on the couch in a more comfortable position with his head on her lap, Mei was content with just waiting for him to wake up before they talked about the great news. After some time, her Naruto began to awaken and she gave him some space as he collected himself. Looking over at the redhead, Naruto tried to remember why he fainted in the first place, and then he looked at her stomach and remembered. Mei was afraid he was going to faint again but started to smile when he hesitantly placed a hand over her stomach and began to rub it, tickling her a bit. "Right, here?" Naruto asked. He received a nod. "What do you think, Naruto-kun? Are you happy?" Naruto looked into her worried eyes and just smiled, placing his other hand on her cheek. "Of course I am, Mayheim. I was just so surprised at the suddenness that it overloaded my brain." "Do we know if it will be a boy or girl?" Mei shook her head. "Too early to find out, darling. We will just have to wait." Naruto didn't look disappointed as he just looked at her stomach. It doesn't matter. Boy or girl, both will be perfect with their mother's genes." Mei smiled and moved a hand to Naruto's face, rubbing his whiskers. "Can't forget the father's cuteness factor. If they have these whiskers I might just die." They both laughed at that, happy that they were getting another family member. Kirigakure, Uzumaki Darumi Training Grounds. Naruto stood in the middle of the field preparing for his first summoning attempt of a lava monkey. All in all, he was pretty excited. Going through the universal hand signs of summoning, Naruto slammed his bloodied hand onto the ground and watched with satisfaction as a sizable puff of smoke appeared. Summoning technique. From the smoke came two creatures, not one as Naruto was expecting. There stood a moderately sized lava monkey somewhat taller than Naruto himself. He stood with all four palms on the ground. Next to him appeared none other than Gamakichi, who looked confused until he set his eyes on Naruto. "Yo. Hey Naruto, it's been forever since I saw you." Naruto scratched the back of his head, confused. Hi Gamakichi, what are you doing here?" Gamakichi looked at him as if he were an idiot. "Because you summoned me, why else?" Naruto pointed to the irate lava monkey next to him, to which Gamakichi gulped and took a few steps away from. "Uzumaki-sama, may I ask why there is a toad here?" Naruto looked at the primate and found it in an interesting outfit. It had plate armor on its arms and legs, and the most important part was that a Yuzu headband was around its neck, showing its only loyalty. Its appearance was that of a tiny Yanbi without the four tails, only a single one was behind it. "Toads were my first summon, although I'm just as confused as how I was able to summon both of you at the same time." The monkey seemed to ponder this while Gamakichi was beyond confused. "Naruto, how did you get another summons?" Naruto pointed at the lava monkey. "This is a lava monkey, the loyal Uzumaki clan summons, and I came across their boss who gave me the contract." The lava monkey stopped thinking and looked at Naruto, practically going crazy with anxiousness. "You met our leader, Yanbi-sama?" Naruto nodded. "How is he? Is he okay?" Yeah. The lava monkey seemed to calm down and wiped some sweat off his brow. "That's good, we haven't had any contact with him for so long. I think it's been over 50 years since we last had fought alongside him. Well, I need to work this out, so how are we going to prevent a double summoning from happening again?" Gamakichi looked at the monkey and they both nodded to one another before looking back at Naruto. Choose, they said simultaneously, not giving Naruto much of a choice. Choose? You mean choose one of you? They both nodded, neither happy with the outcome. But I like both of you. I'm sorry Uzumaki-sama, but to prevent double summoning you must pick one of us so the other may remove you from the contract. It's the only way. Is there a way that I would still be able to visit the one that I don't choose? Gamakichi nodded. We could always put a little seal on you that allows us to summon you to Myabakuzen if we ever need you. The monkey nodded as well. We have a similar use for transporting you to our homes on Yuzu Island if that is your choice. Gamakichi, I'm sorry but I made a promise to Yanbi, I have to choose the lava monkeys. Gamakichi nodded and smiled a bit, he had figured Naruto would pick them anyways. Alright Naruto, you don't have to worry about it with me but I'm sure Dad is gonna be mighty pissed off. Here, this is the seal that will allow us to summon you. Don't worry, it won't happen very often, only if something important is happening that concerns you. Right. Thanks for understanding Gamakichi. See ya. And with that, the toad was gone, leaving the monkey and Naruto to discuss what's next. Good choice if I may so Uzumaki-sama, your ancestors would be pleased. Naruto just nodded, not sure if Gamakichi was genuine in his goodbye. So, what is your name? The monkey slapped himself on the forehead, how could he forget his manners? Sorry Uzumaki-sama, my name is Yamura, it is a pleasure to meet you. The monkey held out its large paw for a shake and Naruto awkwardly gripped it. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, the pleasure is mine Yamura. Now tell me, what has happened with the lava monkeys while the Uzumaki have been away? The monkeys have survived sir, but we do miss our old friends. Without Yanbi-sama to guide us or the Uzumaki to follow, we have sat idle for the past 30 years. I was excited when I received the call of a summon and now here I stand before another Uzumaki. Praise Yanbi. Naruto scratched the back of his head, not sure of what to make of it. Well, I have an Uzumaki wife as well and a child on the way. Is there any way we could get her to sign the contract as well? The monkey was surprised at first to hear of more Uzumaki but quickly regained his composure. Of course Naruto-sama, I have a copy of the contract here with me. There is this little tradition back on Yuzu Island but it really isn't necessary. All she has to do is sign it and when your infant is at the right age, it can sign as well. Perfect. Would you like to come with me to get her? Naruto-sama, are you inviting me into your home? Naruto nodded, not getting what is the big deal. I have never been inside a human house before. You are most generous. Naruto patted the large monkey on his shoulder and led him inside. Oh Mayheim. I have a visitor here that has some words he would like to speak to you. Yamura sat on his two bottom legs and nervously twiddled his fingers with much anxiousness. Naruto noticed his trepidation and sought to quell it. Don't worry, she is very sweet. The monkey looked convinced until it looked up the stairs and seemed to shrink. Naruto looked up there to see Mei with a familiar too happy smile on her face, pointing at the monkey. Oh Naruto, what is a monkey doing in our house? Naruto gulped, motioning to the large monkey. This is Yamura and he has come from Yuzu Island through a summoning to ask that as an Uzumaki if you would sign the summoning contract. Mei's eyes softened when she heard that and slowly moved down the stairs to stand before the two. Immediately, Yamura moved to bow low but was stopped by Mei herself. Uzumaki-sama, please forgive me for my rude. Mei held up a hand for quiet, silencing the monkey. There is no need for apologies, it was my own overreaction that led to this. I'm sorry to worry you Yamura, I will gladly sign the lava monkey contract. The monkey smiled and brought out a scroll with the names of a few dozen remaining Uzumaki on it, giving Naruto an interesting idea for later. Just sign right here in blood, there. Beautiful handwriting by the way, Matriarch-sama. Mei and Naruto's eyes widened at the sound of that. What do you mean by matriarch, Yamura? Naruto asked, receiving a bit of a flustered look from the primate. Oh, I'm sorry if that was not the proper title for your female Naruto-sama. I just assumed that because you are the first to summon us in the last 30 years that you were the heads of the current Uzumaki family. Please forgive my wrongful assumptions. Naruto and Mei looked at each other in surprise. So, we are the first to contact you in the past 30 years, Mei asked incredulously, not believing that such a famous summon would go unused. The monkey merely nodded and took on a sullen form. Yes Uzumaki-sama, my people have felt as though we have been shunned or failed the Uzumaki somehow and that this is our punishment. From your confusion, I suspect you know little of other Uzumaki's statuses. They both nodded their heads, no other Uzumaki were known to the two of them. Well, that is a shame. Perhaps in time, we can work together to unite the Uzumaki with the help of my summoning contract here. Now then, I believe this summoning has been completed and I shall return home until I am summoned again. Naruto-sama, we may summon you soon so you may see our Crimson Backs or our leaders to discuss with them your further training as the Uzumaki Patriarch. Naruto was confused. Training? Patriarch? Wait, what do you mean by training? The monkey looked at him for a moment as if he were stupid before he changed to a more friendly face. Your lava training, the Crimson Backs will teach you our way of converting geothermal energy into strength and power, a secret power known only to the Yanbi's descendants. You will come to learn more in time. The monkey disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving a confused couple of Uzumaki. Okay. Kirigakure, Mizukage Suite. One day later. Mei sat at her desk in her normal attire, going through a few documents while she waited for Naruto to arrive. She had received a priority message from the Raikage that his brother, Killer Bee, had requested Naruto's presence for a training exercise. Seeing nothing wrong with it, Mei allowed it to go through and now she just had to see him off. Mizukage-sama, you requested my presence? She looked up to see her fiancé. He had dressed in his normal Kari-jounin attire for the trip. Yes, I have a mission that will send you to Kumo for some training alongside Killer Bee. Naruto was intrigued by this. The last time he saw Killer Bee was when he first visited Kumo with Yujido. They had met briefly during his week of training there. Did it say what kind of training? Mei nodded her head, handing the message over to Naruto. Reading it, his eyes widened when he saw the word underlined at least a dozen times by someone who had to be Killer Bee. Rap training? Mei held back her laugh as she watched Naruto panic at the idea of rapping with Killer Bee. Now, calm down Naruto. I'm sure that you can talk him into some real training after he has done whatever he is going to do with you in rapping. Naruto wasn't feeling any better. Yujido had many horror stories she told of him and he didn't like remaining in the same room for too long. Look on the bright side, it pays a rank because Killer Bee insisted that it was a very important mission. You can use it to go buy us some baby clothes, and a crib, and Naruto interrupted her with his hands held up in defense. Okay, I get it. I'm going, but I won't like it. Naruto began to walk towards the door but stopped when he remembered something. Oh, before I forget, here, this is the list I made that you asked for. I'll oversee the preparations after my mission is complete. Naruto left off as he disappeared behind the office's door. Mei smiled at his memory and looked at the list. Naruto had compiled all the names of the remaining Uzumaki and now it was Mei's job to find them. Pulling out the large scroll with the census, Mei started looking, already knowing this was going to be a long day. Konoha, Hokage Office. Tsunade, along with the information supplied by Yamato's team, I have confirmed the fact that Danzo has entered a megacure for his future base of operations. Please allow me to go and find out exactly what he is planning. It could be vital for the Kiri-Konoha alliance. Jiraiya stood in front of Tsunade, hoping to get permission to infiltrate the rainy country for intel. Tsunade's eyes widened as she knew he was determined. Why the hell would he want to go there himself? Jiraiya, the situation in that country is too risky. Why can't you just use your spy network to gather information? I already tried that, Tsunade. My spies either have trouble smuggling the information to me from inside the country, or they are caught in the process of gathering it. I no longer have a viable network in the country and now it's up to me to find what we need. Will you allow me to do it? You understand the risks, don't you? Jiraiya scoffed. Of course he did. I am one of the Sannin, remember? I can take anything the old coot can throw at me. We will have what we need when I get back. See ya, Tsunade-chan. Jiraiya was gone in a puff of smoke, not even waiting for her final approval. Damn idiot, be safe, she said as she looked out the window in the direction he disappeared to. Kumagakure outskirts, Killer Bee's training grounds. Okay Bee, what is this rap training that you want me to help you with? Naruto and Bee were standing on a large circular platform with Bee's hideaway a little higher up the mountain they were on. Bee scratched the back of his head, a bit nervous. He pulled out his rhyme book and got out a pencil but didn't write anything. I'm having some trouble thinking of my rhymes. Yeah, I need your help to find something that rhymes with double. Naruto racked his brain for the answer to the simple request. Trouble, that seemed to spark something in the older man's eyes and he furiously began to write in his rhyme book. Get this. Gotta go on the double, before I get in trouble, float away in a bubble, cause I float like butterfly and sting like a bee cause I'm Kiribi. Naruto just sweat dropped, propping up a thumbs up for the man's mediocrity. Nice one? Killer Bee noticed Naruto still standing there and ran up to him and gave him a giant bear hug as thanks. Thanks to you, my little blonde friend, I have new rhymes. Now I'm in a good mood, so how about we train for real and I can help you with the training that I promised to give you when you were first here. Yeah, Naruto was confused. What training was that? What do you mean, training? I don't remember. The training with multiple swords, Naruto, remember? You were so hyped up on my super awesome style that you wanted to learn too. First we gotta get my man here some swords and something to put them in. B ran up into his home away from home and disappeared for over 5 minutes, leaving Naruto just sit there astounded at the man's memory. Just when he thought the man passed out or got lost, he came back out with 9 swords and a back holder for all of them that allowed Naruto to reach them easily. My students on Team Samu could never learn how to use multiple swords, or at least not very well. I think you're going to be my first student to actually pass the class. Oh yeah. He helped Naruto fasten the holder onto his back and instructed him on how to remove all the swords at the same time. Like this? Instead of removing the swords completely, Naruto just loosened them in their slots, seeing as he did not yet know how to hold them all. Yeah, like that. I use 7 swords, but I thought since ya got the 9 tails that ya should get 9 swords. Yeah. Let's see. He had Naruto stand in a very awkward position and just started placing swords between his joints. He even stuck one in his mouth. After the 7th one was placed, he took a few steps back to admire his handiwork. That's my exact stance. Now where to place the other ones? Naruto was sweating bullets, hoping that B would find a decent spot for them. After much indecision, B chose to place the last 2 in Naruto's open hands, effectively having him hold all 9 blades. Naruto was unable to hold the stance however and fell over to the ground, making B facepalm. Naruto, ya supposed to be able to stand when ya fight. Yeah. How the hell am I supposed to balance that? Well, I suppose I could teach you that part. Yeah, probably be better if we started with that. Humagakure outskirts, 5 days later. Okay, ya know the stance but can ya dig it? Naruto sweat dropped for the 1000th time being in Kumo. You mean can I use it? Killer Bee scratched the back of his head. Ah yeah, that. Well, let's get started. I have some stuff I have to do and carry and it has a timetable. Killer Bee seemed pleased enough and pulled out his own swords quickly. Naruto did the same. Both opponents stared at each other before Killer Bee started the battle by jumping towards Naruto. Meeting the charge with one of his own, Naruto launched into the air and twisted his left arm towards Bee's form. The two clashed their blades, the battle becoming a game of who could push the other back until Naruto became a little too unpredictable. Contrary to the style B had taught him, Naruto maneuvered his right leg and kicked the other man away from him. Charging forward, Naruto dodged 3 swords thrown by B and flipped upside down to confuse B while he switched the positioning of his swords, but the other blonde was not fooled. Charging forward quickly, B took the blades from Naruto mid-stride and held his mouth blade right up to Naruto's neck while the rest threatened to penetrate his center mass. While Naruto lost the sword battle, by releasing his swords it gave him the chance to form a perfect Rasengan that threatened to tear right through B's defenses. Looking down, B noticed this as well and smirked, releasing his weapons and handing back Naruto's. That was sweet. Your swordsmanship will need a lot of work to keep up with the master, but ya got style, kid. Placing his weapons back in their correct holsters, Naruto bowed to his sensei. Thanks B, I think. Yeah. Whenever I need you for more of those sick rhymes, I'll call ya. I'm alright. Don't push yourself. Naruto left in a flash of yellow to go visit a place that he should have gone to a long time ago. Man, I gotta learn how to do that. Yuzu Shores. Naruto walked up along the shoreline towards the mainland, cutting through the dense foliage. He was looking for Uzumaki, the hidden village where he expected his clan's living quarters were. Realizing that this was going to get him nowhere, Naruto went through a few hand signs and slammed his hand down onto the ground to make a puff of smoke appear. The familiar face of Yamura appeared and it gave Naruto more confidence that his mission would be a success. Ah, Naruto-sama, good to see you. Why have you summoned me though? I need your help finding the ruins of Uzumaki. I need to start fixing it up. Yamura heard that and smiled. While I admire your mission, sir, I'm afraid that you can't fix it up. Why is that? Naruto inclined his head towards Yamura in a suspicious gaze. It's because the monkeys have already fixed the cities for you, in hopes that you would return. I can show you Uzumaki if you wish though, it is a beautiful city for humans anyway. Alright, why not? Naruto followed the monkey's lead as they explored the jungles and slowly started to reach the city. Naruto was amazed by the amount of animal life though, it seemed every few steps you took there were lava monkeys inside or even other animals. When the foliage began to thin out, Naruto knew that they had almost arrived, but he was not expecting the sight before him. Uzumaki Gates. What is this? Yamura had led him to what appeared to be the eastern whirlpool fields of Yuzu country. Yamura spread his arms wide in front of him, amplifying the sheer grandeur of the moment. This is Uzumaki. Naruto looked around confusedly, all he could see were multiple whirlpools that were huge, ship-eaters in size. They currently stood on the shore but Yamura began to walk across the water without fail or worry. Naruto soon followed and the two were soon standing in the middle of the dangerous fields. That was the first defense. If we had not been who we were, the whirlpools would have sucked us in. Now for the entrance. Suddenly Yamura jumped into the nearest and largest whirlpool before allowing himself to be sucked away. At first Naruto thought he had fallen in on accident but soon realized that this was the so-called gate of Uzumaki. Naruto felt himself being tugged by the strong currents and could tell he was moving towards the island. Naruto tried to open his eyes to see where he was going and found the currents were leading through tunnels that had been dug out under the island. Entering through one of them, Naruto could feel the heat rise and could only guess that there was volcanic activity on the island. Feeling the current change, Naruto was now being pulled upwards towards the surface. A bright light was above him. Uzumaki. Coming out of the giant geyser, Naruto felt himself launch into the air a few moments before landing sorely on his bottom. Yamura stood off to the side, patiently waiting for the Uzumaki to gather himself. Ah, you have arrived. How did you like the ride? Naruto slowly stood up while nursing his hurt backside. Is that the only entrance to Uzumaki? Yamura looked at him curiously before shaking his head. No, if you know the right direction, you can walk here from the shores. There is an elaborate genjutsu that will only fall if you are an Uzumaki or monkey, otherwise it seems like you're just walking through more forest. Good, because I don't want to do that again. The red primate shrugged. I suppose it's more popular with the children then. The whirlpool fields are popular spots. I'll bet. Wow. Naruto finally took notice of the city before him and was amazed at its style and somewhat familiarity. We are here, the home of your ancestors, Uzumaki. Naruto took notice that most of the buildings were painted red or orange. Bright vibrant colors littered the view. The city building structure was similar to Kiri's because the buildings were in cylindrical shapes for the most part, except for a few that seemed to be very important. Naruto looked closely at the Japanese-style castle that had yuzu swirls adorned on it and figured it to be the head clan's building. Naruto looked behind himself to find a large wall that prevented access to would-be travelers. The Uzumaki really didn't like outsiders apparently. I hope the monkeys did a good job with your city, Naruto-sama. We have had over 50 years of solitude so this was one of the few things we could do. How does it look? Naruto walked along the main street a bit followed closely by his guide. Well, I don't know what it looked like before but I like it. It feels very familiar while at the same time very new. Your people did a wonderful job. I can't wait to move in. Yamura's eyes widened. He was coming to live here? Naruto-sama, do you mean that you will come back here to live? Naruto turned to the monkey and nodded. Praise Yanbi. Hopefully more Uzumaki will follow. We can be a true family again. Naruto looked up into the sky, wondering how Mei was doing. Hopefully. A megacure. A toad came up for a peek at land, looking around to see if it could find anyone. It was currently in a large body of water that surrounded the city, keeping most travelers well away from it. Opening its mouth, the toad allowed the man that had been tagging along to come out of hiding. Jiraiya slowly pulled himself out from inside the small amphibian and took a look at his surroundings. It was raining, so he pulled on a cloak that would allow him to move throughout the city without being recognized. Just as he was beginning to walk off towards the lights of the festival, the toad had a final question. Jiraiya-sama, are you sure this is a good idea? Surely we could find the information you need another way. Jiraiya looked back at the small animal and smiled, hiking a thumb at himself. Oh come on, have a little more faith in me will ya? I am the toad sage and Sanin Jiraiya, I think I can handle it. Don't worry, I'll be back out soon with all the information we need. Jiraiya quickly turned around and began to walk. His smile had left him and a frown had settled on his face. I'm not sure what it is, but now I'm starting to get the feeling this mission is different than the others. Oh, look at me, I'm Lemple their wares. Ask simple questions and try and get what he needed out of them. As he walked amongst them, Jiraiya felt just how alien he was standing with them. This isn't working, these people are too suspicious of foreigners. I'm like an outsider. The old pervert moved off to the side and found a bench, deciding to take a break from his investigations. His eyes wandered from suspicious persons to beautiful ladies, slowly beginning to drool over the forbidden fruit. I wonder if there are any pleasure places here? Such a gold mine in a country locked in civil war, and I am the first man to find it from the outside. I stake my claim. Just as Jiraiya was about to chase a particular piece of fine ass, he noticed a peculiar figure walk past him. This particular person stood out because his mask wasn't a civilian design, it was a Konoha design. Furthermore, with his experience, Jiraiya could tell the bulges under the man's cloak were his weaponry. This led him to one conclusion: this was a root operative that was operating inside an enemy city. Standing up, Jiraiya began to trail the man who was sticking mainly to populated areas. After a few more minutes of aimless wandering, Jiraiya noticed another similar figure begin to walk alongside the man. A few minutes later another joined. The trend continued until there was at least half a dozen of them walking loosely with one another. What are they up to? The 6 identified Anbu were now going down an alleyway, void of anyone else other than themselves and a white-haired spy. Concealing himself with a simple chameleon technique, Jiraiya watched as one went up to a wall and pressed inward. The assortment of pipes shook and rose, revealing a passage. All 6 quickly went inside with a close-by Jiraiya following on their toes. They led him through multiple passages, all kept professionally quiet as they approached their command center. Entering through the last passage, all 7 walked into a large room with a conference table in the center of it, some sort of meeting room. Jiraiya moved off to a wall, to be the fly on the wall during the inevitable meeting. His eyes widened as the 6 root operatives threw off their trademark white cloaks for a sinister revelation to show. They were wearing Akatsuki cloaks underneath them. My god. That old bastard really did it. He joined Akatsuki and brought his men with him. His thoughts were interrupted when previously unseen doors opened and it revealed Danzo walking with 3 figures into the room. The root soldiers had taken up security places around the room, watching all 4 carefully. Danzo, I see your men have taken up their new colors well, said the man with the orange mask. He seemed suspicious to Jiraiya. Danzo himself ran his available hand over his new cloak, particularly tracing the red clouds. Yes, well, I must admit they are wonderful colors. Besides, I told you we joined forces, correct? That was all the proof Jiraiya needed. Danzo was now a criminal among the Akatsuki. You are sure about this, sir? Allowing an ex-Konoha shinobi to just waltz in here and join us, a strangely shaped man with what looked to be a Venus flytrap. Seems to be second in command, and for a while now, no one would have the balls to interrupt the leader of a criminal organization just like that. Well, Danzo does know how to make quite a bargain. He gave me an army, and an apprentice. The 2 figures opposite Danzo and Toby shifted uncomfortably. Who is this apprentice? Sir, can we trust the Uchiha to come with us willingly? After all, he was under the command of Orochimaru when we picked him up, said the man with a large sword on his back. His face was very similar to that of a shark. That must be Kisame Hoshigaki, the demon of the mist. And what was that about Uchiha? They couldn't mean Sasuke, could they? How the hell did they manage to take him from Orochimaru so easily? And why? Oh, once I reveal a few things to the boy, I'm sure he will come along to our side. Besides, we always have Itachi with us to serve as a contingency plan. The other 3 grunted in agreement to Toby. On to the next order of business. Kisame, you and Itachi recently arrived with the 4 tails and it was successfully extracted. How many does that make under our control? The plant man spoke up to answer the leader. That makes 3, sir. We are currently tracking the 3 and 6 tails. I am also monitoring the 9 tails as you requested. Jiraiya's eyes widened. Naruto. Good, I will begin to order pain into position soon. Kisame. I trust that you will be able to handle your duty when the time comes to capture the 8 tails. Kisame smirked, nodding his head confidently. Yes, I believe I will be up to the task. Toby nodded and stood up, casting a suspicious eye at the direction Jiraiya was in. Now that the meeting is over, Madara's Sharingan eye swirled angrily. It's time we take care of the spy. It all seemed to happen in slow motion to Jiraiya. One moment all 4 were sitting at the table and the next they had sprung up and started charging towards him. Quickly ducking back into the passage, Jiraiya ran for his life, knowing that even he could not outfight the men that were chasing him. Were there really this many turns when we were coming this way? Damn it, I may have to summon the Toad Sage to get out of this. Rounding another corner, Jiraiya sighed in relief when he saw rain pelting the ground and looked up to see the sky. Having his escape route, Jiraiya began his run up the pipes when the water turned into a waterfall and pushed him down the pipes to land back on the ground. Water release, great waterfall. Kisame announced triumphantly, stopping the would-be escape in its tracks. Jiraiya quickly recovered and glared at the man. He was the only one present. Knowing the other three en route cronies were not far behind, Jiraiya knew he could not stay. Gathering a large Rasengan in his palm, Jiraiya charged Kisame, who only brought his great sword in front of him and held it to the approaching Rasengan. Jiraiya quickly noticed the jutsu losing strength and switched tactics, going through hand signs for his ultimate speed attack. Hair needle barrage. Kisame's eyes changed to a playful look as he lazily brought his sword up to deflect the attack, destroying most of the attack while a few needles penetrated his flesh. Ouch. Was this supposed to give me a reason to get out my tweezers? Jiraiya gritted his teeth and slammed a smoke bomb onto the ground, quickly running towards the top but was stopped by a flash of orange in front of him. Where do you think you are going? Konohagakure, Hokage office 1 week later. Tsunade-sama, Shizune came running through the office door to alert Tsunade of the Toad presence in Konoha. Tsunade and her visitor turned to look at Shizune, who had made an unnecessary uproar in the middle of their meeting. Shizune saw Fukasaku had already shown himself and quietly dismissed herself, thoroughly embarrassed. As you were saying, Fukasaku-sama? Tsunade requested, intent on hearing any news on the missing Jiraiya. The Toad sage sighed and looked at Tsunade with remorse in his eyes. We have yet to contact Jiraiya since he went into AIM, however, he has sent us a message that contains info on Akatsuki. We received it soon after he arrived in AIM, but no Jiraiya-chan. I'm not sure what has happened to him. Tsunade quickly swallowed her fears and took the scroll from the Toad and began to read. Her eyes widened when she saw the many revelations written on the parchment. Sasuke had been abducted from Orochimaru, Kisame Hoshigaki was after the 8 tails, Naruto was being watched and that they captured the 4th tails? This was too much information for her to process, but she knew that this information had to be spread. I wonder why Iwa hasn't announced their Jinchuriki missing. Do they really care? This is quite a treasure trove of information. Fukasaku nodded, in thought. What will you do with it? If they really did kill Jiraiya-chan, we can't just let that go. Something must be done about this Akatsuki organization. Tsunade looked at the old Toad and nodded, rereading the part where it said Naruto was being observed. We will send a general call to all major nations to meet US on neutral ground, possibly the land of Iron if they will have US. Fukasaku looked at her incredulously before smirking, slowly making his way towards the door. Shinobi coming together against a common threat. I never thought I would live to see the day. Tsunade watched as he left and looked out the window. As per her nightly ritual and rainy day contingency, Tsunade pulled out a bottle of sake and poured herself a glass. The warming liquids rushed down her throat and uncomfortably settled at the bottom of her stomach. Why won't this let me forget? A lone tear fell from Tsunade's eye, a silent call of sorrow from the once strong Godame Hokage. Another one of her loved ones was gone. Kirigakure, 1 week later. Mei currently sat in her office, rereading a report that had been sent by the leader of Konohagakure, the Godame Hokage Tsunade. Her entire body shook with anxiety to what the letter contents read. The sheer ramifications and the effect on the ninja world was too great to be real. 4 tails captured, Jiraiya of the Sannin dead, and Naruto is next apparently. This is not good at all. What could Tsunade hope to accomplish with a meeting of the Kage though? Is she in her right mind? As she pondered this, the door slowly opened, allowing a single ninja inside. He had just arrived from the old Yuzu ruins. Naruto Uzumaki walked up to his wife to be and kissed her in surprise. She welcomed the kiss immediately and allowed her tongue to tangle with his. Switching their spots so he was now the one in the chair, Mei now sat in his lap staring at him with pure joy. Naruto-koi, you are back. How was your trip to Kumo and the ruins? Naruto detailed his training in Kumo, accentuated by his swords that still were strapped to his back. Going to see Killer Bee wasn't so bad now, was it? Naruto sighed, not wishing to think of the encounter. It was only good after we got the wrapping out of the way. Besides, I could have learned how to wield 9 swords on my own. Mei giggled but then remembered the saddening message received and became gravely serious. Naruto, you need to look at this. It was received from Konoha a few days ago. It has some disturbing information. Naruto took the paper and began to read, his eyes slowly growing in size until they were saucers. Apparently finished, Naruto threw the parchment away like it was poison, his hands tightening into fists. Mei observed his face change from calm to pure anguish and hatred, something she did not wish to see. Pervy Sage, and Roshi too, those bastards. Naruto threatened to get up and hunt them down himself before Mei placed both hands on his cheeks to try and calm him. Naruto, please calm down. You going out there and trying to find the men who did this will get us nowhere. You need to save your strength for when the real battle comes. Besides, I don't like to see you angry, especially around me. Naruto looked at her and saw the hurt in her eyes, making him feel ashamed. The small influence of Kyuubi Naruto allowed to slip through now disappeared, his eyes returning to ocean blue from the fiery red. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have overreacted like that, it's just that. You don't have to say it, Naruto, you already told me about your past with both of them. I would be just as angry if I was in your position. However, they both gave their lives to give you a chance to prepare and stop Akatsuki. And to cement that chance, Tsunade has called all 5 of the shinobi nations to a summit to be held in the land of Iroh. Naruto was shocked. Tsunade was trying to assemble all the villages? There is no way that could work, right? I mean, we are talking about stubborn nations like Iwa and Kumo. How will we get them to agree? Mei seemed to ponder this for a moment. Iwa has obviously been keeping their Jinchurike's disappearances secret, because otherwise they would have been calling for blood by now. If they are given a chance to rid a potential threat like Akatsuki, they can't refuse. Kumo is easy, you yourself had a hand in that. With you tagging along with me, it will surely ease relations during the meeting. Naruto's eyes widened. He was going? You want me to go? Mei looked at him as if it was obvious, to which he responded with a confused facial expression. Obviously, it says here I need 2 bodyguards to come with me. You are one of the strongest ninja in this village, if not the strongest. Why wouldn't I want you to come? And besides, it says in the fine print here that you have to come along. Hokage's orders. Naruto suspiciously picked up the crumpled paper and looked to see in small print that Tsunade really was ordering him to attend. So when do we leave? Tomorrow, Naruto-kun. Be ready. Is there anyone else you want me to assemble? Mei poked her chin, trying to think. Suddenly she snapped her fingers, knowing just the man. Naruto, bring your old sensei here first thing tomorrow. Kumagakure, Raikage's office. What the hell is this? A notice from Konoha. Why the hell are they having a meeting? The Raikage bellowed, obviously not amused by this. His secretary quietly sighed from the side as he accidentally broke his desk again. This man was just too much. Raikage-sama, this is a legitimate meeting to be held. From the notes there, it shows that Akatsuki has turned from a rogue group of criminals to a powerful terrorist organization with possible ex-Konoha shinobi backing. We cannot turn away from this call of nations so easily. It could bring peace to the landing. Besides, these are the people who have actively tried to capture not only your brother but Yujiro as well. The Raikage seemed to ponder this, tapping his meaty fingers on his hat. I suppose that sounds about right. Get me Daru and Shi immediately. And when the lazy bastard asks why when he could just take a walk instead, tell him that I'll challenge him to a wrestle match again. The secretary sweat dropped and set off to find the 2 ninja. After the last time Raikage-sama attempted a fair wrestle match, half of the Kuroku Mountains were destroyed and Daru didn't dare set foot in the man's office again. Iwagakure, Tsuchikage's office. An old man sat in his chair in a large stone room. His mottled brown hat sat unused on his desk as he massaged his back. Just finishing another pile of useless paperwork, Inoki seriously wondered for the 1000th time if he should retire. It might not be such a bad idea. I mean, then I could just retire and have someone massage my back without any shame coming from it. But who from the young generation could I? Inoki was cut off from his musings when the large door was crashed into and broken in half by a dazed but smiling Akatsuki who was holding a scroll. Inoki deadpanned in with a sweat drop and quickly rethought his retirement. Who in the young generation can truly be trusted with such a position of power? This is a prime example of young whippersnappers that just can't do anything but fumble the ball in times of stress. I will just have to stay as the Tsuchikage. Tsuchikage-sama, a message from Konoha has arrived for you. The older man's eyes widened and he got up from his chair and set off in a steady stride to Akatsuki. Taking it from him, Inoki wondered what his old nemesis of a country Konoha could possibly want. His eyes widened when he saw Roshi's name attached, wondering if it was some trick or trap. So, those bastards got Roshi too, huh? We thought that allowing Han to be taken would keep them away from the country. I suppose I was wrong to ignore them for so long. This looks suspicious, Akatsuchi. Bring Kuratsuchi here immediately. It seems we have a meeting to go to. Akatsuchi looked shocked that the Tsuchikage was really thinking of going along with something that was proposed by Konoha. Are you sure, sir? I thought that we couldn't trust the Konoha dogs and that we would never come into talks with them again. Inoki looked into the younger boy's eyes, slowly shaking his head in a condescending manner. There are times when one must take contradictory actions to his previous words and promises for the greater good. Sometimes, Inoki looked out the window to his village. One must remember what it means to truly be a shinobi. Tsunagakure, Kazukage office. Temari, Kankuro, prepare for a journey. Tsunade has called for a summit meeting of the Kage and I need 2 bodyguards. You are my first choices. Kankuro and Temari stood in front of their younger brother's desk talking about a priority message sent by Konoha. What's all this about, Gaara? Kankuro asked, curious as to what Konoha wanted. It seems that Akatsuki has struck again and has become more than just a minor pest. Tsunade seems to have had enough of this and has called a meeting to discuss ways to defeat Akatsuki. I foresee this as being a way to promote unity amongst the divided nations of the shinobi world. Will Naruto and the Mizukage go as well? Temari wondered, knowing Gaara would like his friend to attend. Most likely Naruto will go along with the Mizukage as a bodyguard. I doubt he would entrust her with anyone else. I suppose you are right. We leave tomorrow, prepare yourselves. A megacure. Zetsu stood before his leader, Madara Uchiha, in a small meeting room reserved for privacy. Zetsu had been recently summoned for a private discussion concerning a message they had intercepted on its way to Tokigakure, sent by Konoha. Zetsu. Tell me what you think of this alliance talk that Konoha is proposing. Madara used his fingers to indicate air quotes around alliance as he thought it more of a joke than anything. Zetsu gulped, allowing his serious personality to answer. My lord, I believe that the talks can either be our savior or our destruction. Madara looked somewhat intrigued, waving his hand, gesturing to continue. Please go on. From what the past has told us, the major nations have always been at odds since their birth, whether it be because of territorial disputes, clan rivalries. Zetsu noticed Madara's eye narrow and continued quickly, or for personal glory. Who is to say that this meeting of Kage could not turn out to be a bloodbath, a perfect place for them to ambush and attempt to kill one another? Madara thought this over in his mind. It sounded quite plausible. If we look at the past to solve the answer, but we both know that that tactic doesn't always work. I have felt something strange about this attempt to unite the 5 nations, and while it does not worry me, I am somewhat concerned on how it will affect our abilities to kidnap the Jinchuriki. Now, I have a mission for you that concerns this summit. Zetsu nodded, glad that his lord recognized his abilities. I need you to go to the land of Iron and spy on the Kage during the conference. We must find out any plans they create there and find out their strengths and weaknesses. I will make a later appearance to discuss with them my Moon Eye plan, and then we will retreat into hiding. With Danzo's forces now under our command, we have a small strike force, but... Madara got up and looked out the one opening to exit the room. The rain poured outside as he observed the peaceful nature scene. What we need is an army. Kirigakure, village gate. Naruto stood alongside Mei and Chijiro as they waited to leave the village to go to the Kage meeting. At the moment, a large amount of ninja and civilians were gathering to see them off. The meeting had been purposely leaked to the public for morale purposes. Naruto had wondered if Mei was still in a physical condition worthy to still be a ninja with the baby. Mei insisted that until the symptoms became more prevalent and her bump was obvious, she would stay in office. Wow, I didn't even know we had this many ninja, Naruto mumbled. The sheer amount of their forces was quite staggering to the blonde. Yes, and they have all come to see us off. Isn't it nice? She asked, turning to her fiancé. Naruto looked back at her and smiled. Chijiro, do you have everything you need? Mei asked. The boy had been quiet for some time now. He shuffled his feet on the ground and readjusted the sword on his back, barely glancing at the Mizukage's eyes. Yes, ma'am. I think I'll be just fine, I think. Naruto looked at him with a barely hidden smirk. His sensei had always been so timid. You have to have more confidence, Chijiro. Mei wouldn't have picked you had she not figured in your strength. If you have faith in yourself, you can be so much stronger. Chijiro looked up to his old student's eyes and smiled, standing a little bit straighter. You are right, Naruto. I just have to remember that I have the ability to make a difference then I Can, the older boy went off into a stuttering mumble and Naruto's sweat dropped. It was still a work in progress. Mei elbowed him and stood a little straighter, making Naruto do the same when he saw an elderly man carrying her cage hat. She had said that it was a monumental occasion when a cage had to leave the village, especially for something so important as a meeting with the nations. An elderly person, generally a veteran of the council, would hand her the hat as a symbolic way of saying that the strength of Kiri's people would go with her. He paced towards her with the ceremonial staff in one hand and the hat in the other. The shape was of a serpent from Kiri's myths of the past. Mei took a small step forward so the man would not have to take as many steps to reach her. Naruto stood with his arms crossed confidently and with a smirk on his face. Chijiro had a small smile and had both hands in his pants pockets. Naruto's chosen attire to attend the meeting was somewhat of his old original clothing from when he first arrived in Kiri 3 years ago. He had on his black ninja sandals, black leather leggings to cover the skin between his pants and his sandals, and his old camo pants that were a black and white color. His shirt was mostly covered by his gray kiri-jounin vest, but the black sleeves were visible, as was the camo part around his neck and at the bottom of the vest where the shirt poked out. He wore his kiri headband right on his forehead and had on his 2 gloves with metal protectors with Kiri's symbol on them. Be sure to take care of the Mizukage, make sure there are no problems. Naruto spied his fellow hunter Miruko in the front of the crowd, giving them their parting orders. I know that, Naruto said back simply, noting Mei's small smirk that formed as he said that. Finally, the elderly man outstretched his hand and Mei reached for it and gently took it from him. She did not put it on, however, choosing to hold it as she spoke reassuring words to the populace. Thank you, sir. I promise I will fulfill my duty as the Mizukage of Kirigakure. The man silently chuckled and nodded. A ninja that stood next to him spoke to the 2 bodyguards. As 2 of the 7 great ninja, you must protect the Mizukage with your lives. Naruto punched Chijiro in the shoulder and smiled, as did the smaller man. Of course we will, I wouldn't let anything happen to her on my watch. Naruto announced with a thumbs up. Everyone silently shrugged their shoulders in relief, knowing that the Mizukage's fiancé would keep her safe. Yeah, back in my day we would just leave and not give these going away parties. Get a move on, you 3. Naruto and Mei's eyes widened when they looked into the crowd and found a crippled Ao with crutches. His smile was a reassurance to both of them. Ao-senpai. You shouldn't be out of the hospital, you need rest. Ao just shook his head and hobbled over to Naruto, holding out his hand. It's customary for men to shake hands for goodbyes. I hope to see you soon, Naruto. I know you will keep her safe. That goes for Chijiro too. Naruto looked down at his hand and smiled, grabbing it and shaking with him confidently. Come on, Naruto, Chijiro, it's time to head out. Naruto turned around to see Mei slowly walking off with the blue hat over her head, obscuring her features. Giving one last confident nod towards the parting crowd, Naruto ran to catch up and stood alongside Mei as they began their trek to the land of Iron. Kirigakure, prison. Upon leaving the festivity of seeing the cage off, Councilman Okoro headed straight for the prison that was the place he had visited only a month ago to see Kyo. Now that the Mizukage was gone, they could now begin work on overthrowing her and bringing about a new era, one without bloodlines like the Uzumaki. Yagura almost did it, now it's our turn to finish them off. According to official documents taken before and after the massacres, there still remained over 40 branch families of the Uzumaki, all had a mix of purebloods and branch members. Killing them all would be difficult, so that was why Okoro had suggested that the conspiracy and revolution be led by a veteran that led one of the hunter teams of the massacres himself, Kyo. Entering the room, Okoro sat down as instructed by the guards and waited to see Kyo. The man slowly walked in with his white prisoner robe, a frown dead set on his features. His brown hair was now graying from stress of being a prisoner, also no doubt from the message Okoro had left the last time. What do you want, Okoro? They tell me nothing of what happens outside. I wish to know how much longer it will be before I am released. Okoro hid his smirk as he relayed the details of the current events. The Mizukage has left for a meeting between the other great nations. Now it is time for change here in Kiri. Would you lead us to a greater tomorrow, one that Yagura could only dream of? Kyo watched as 2 shadowy figures appeared and snapped the guards' necks, effectively allowing Kyo to walk free. The man smirked as they removed his bindings. He rubbed his sore wrists as he walked out of the prison along with Okoro. I think, that sounds like a wonderful idea. So I got this one done finally. Sorry it took so long, for me anyway. I was having trouble thinking of a way to accomplish everything in this chapter and ended up being somewhat rushed, but I think you can fill in the small gaps left. My beta has apparently disappeared from what Mikey from Ireland says. He also uses the same beta, so I just released this with my own proofreading like usual. Now for the assumptions, guessing and general chaos to ensue. Jiraiya's supposed death and posthumous message has given the Kage reason to worry, and Madara has dreams of an army for Akatsuki. Sasuke has been kidnapped by Akatsuki. Orochimaru can only be pissed off. Kyo has been released, and now without their leader to guide them, who will the people of Kiri listen to? Will the Uzumaki survive long enough until Naruto can return and lead them to salvation, or will Naruto and Mei be the last remaining Uzumaki again? Tune in next time.